The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello and welcome, everyone. Thanks for joining us for this Living Healthy Together webinar. I'm your host, Shelby Nordhagen, and I'm also the founder of the Living Healthy Together online community. And so that's a place where real everyday women, just like you and me, can tell it like it is and get support from one another when it comes to all things health and happiness. And today's speaker, Sherilyn DeVries, is exactly that kind of gal, so you're going to love this session. Now, before we get rolling here, just some housekeeping items. You'll notice that we're using GoToWebinar as a technology platform to run this event. So I'd like to call your attention to a couple of the tools that you'll see on your screen and that you can use here with GoToWebinar. So first you'll see the Grab tab. That's the little orange arrow that appears in the upper right-hand corner of the screen. So you can click on this orange arrow to either minimize or maximize the GoToWebinar control panel. So to better view the full screen so you can see all of Sherilyn's slides, you'll want to minimize that panel by clicking the arrow. But then when you want to type in a question for us, just go ahead and click on that arrow again to bring that back up. And we will hold a question-answer session with Sherilyn at the end here. So do use that white box where you see the words enter a question. Simply type in your question and then hit the send button. And we'll gather up all those questions that you've typed in and we'll direct them to Sherilyn at the end. So please keep your questions coming. Just type them in as they occur to you throughout the course of the session. And if you have any technical difficulties at all with the GoToWebinar system, feel free to call GoToWebinar Tech Support at 1-800-263-6317 and click option number 2. And finally, if for some crazy reason our GoToWebinar session should fail, knock on wood, we won't have that happen. If we lose internet capability for any reason, we'll immediately send you an email. I've got my handy-dandy phone here to send you an email that way if for any reason we lose our connection with GoToWebinar. And then that note will tell you how to log in a different area. So all of that said, let's hear from Sherilyn. Sherilyn, why don't we have you just start off by telling us about yourself and then take it away, run with the program.
Great. Thank you so much, Shelby. Thanks for hosting this, and thanks for making this possible for everybody. I am Sherilyn DeVries, and I am pretty much the last person who I thought would be doing an informative presentation on exercise. I grew up a musician and a shy kid who liked books, but not so much an athlete. But after I lost some weight and started exercising regularly, I fell in love with cycling, and that has led to a lot of exploration in family adventures and my own exercise habits and things like that. And you can follow my adventures on my blog there at bikebliss.com. And for a little more moment-to-moment interaction, there's my Bike Bliss page on Facebook. So thanks again for coming. Today's topic is uncovering your wisdom. Most exercise programs and experts like to say, hey, have I got the answer for you? Let's roll. And I guess the place that I'm coming from and the place that I needed to be, where I have found the most wealth in exercising regularly, is in finding my own wisdom about it, not following someone else's plan, not following anybody else's program, but finding my own wisdom, what works for me and what doesn't. And so what I'm here to help you do is not give you answers. I'm helping you to find your own answers. And so what I want to help you do is discover what you really want out of exercise, not what you've been told you should be getting or you should be doing or you should be performing or accomplishing. I want to honor what you already know about your own body and help discover what that is. A lot of times, especially as women, we've gotten so many messages about who we should be that's, you know, what we know has gotten buried or shoved to the side. We're going to be talking about making the switch, and the switch is from a place where you're thinking about, oh, I need to do this, I need to do this, to craving exercise and seeing that as a way to enjoy life, reduce stress, and those sort of things. And then at the end, we're going to talk about workout shortcuts, because we're all busy, and that's usually one problem that everybody has with exercise is, oh, I don't have time. So we're going to talk about how to make that manageable. I'm going to be, rather than hitting you with a bunch of information, I mean, I will be giving you information, but I'm also going to be handing out permission slips. There are no shoulds or musts here from me. So if you hear something that I say that you're like, oh my gosh, she is crazy, great, awesome. I totally respect that, and that is wonderful because that, again, is your wisdom talking to you. So feel free to disagree with me. Anything that I tell you as far as my stories and what I've done, those are just examples for understanding. That is not my saying to you, hey, you need to do it my way, baby. And I really want to encourage you to build your own story. If you hear something that I say that excites you, awesome. Build your own story with it. You totally do not have to do it my way. That is not what this is about. What this is your time. This is a time for you to be able to have some time with some thoughts and think about some things maybe you either haven't had time to or you haven't felt like you had permission to. No one ever suggested, hey, maybe you can think about it this way. So grab a pen, paper, whatever you use to write with, jot some notes down because we're going to be giving you some time to do that. Looking at a scale here is because this is like the brass ring that everybody wants to go for when we're talking about exercise, is lose weight. And I feel like that's extremely short-sighted. Yes, I did that. I've done the whole, I'm going to exercise, I'm going to lose weight, and I was sort of successful at that for a while, but life happens, it goes up and down. And I guess what I would encourage you to look at, and I don't think many people talk about, is what do you think losing weight is going to get you? In other words, what's the desire behind this wanting to lose weight? What is that? And for most people, and for our culture, it's, ooh, we want to be thin, and thin is going to make us happy. Well, if that was the case, then we wouldn't see the Kardashians blowing up all the time. We wouldn't see other movie stars battling this and that and the other thing because they're rich, thin, and glamorous, right? So if you want to exercise, let's talk about, and sure, a lot of us want to lose weight. I would love to have 10 pounds off, I'll be honest, you know. But what do you think that 10 pounds or that loss of the 10 pounds, I mean, it's just lost, it's gone. What is that really going to get you? What do you think is going to be different about you, about life? What do you think is going to be better when that is gone? Now, some of you may have a lot of weight that is giving you problems medically, whether it's, you know, knees or hips or something like that, and I completely understand that. And you have some real things that, yes, losing weight would help you with. But I'm talking bigger than that. You know, what is really there that you would like in your life that you are just assuming that losing weight is going to help you with? Because once the weight is lost, you know, a lot of your problems are going to still be there. But even if you don't focus on losing the weight, if you set that to the side and you focus on being in your body as you're exercising, there are some beautiful things that emerge. And there are things that I have found as I have exercised and lost weight and gained some back, but continued to get stronger along the way. So no matter what the scale said, I was still strong. And so one of these things was loving the power of my own body. Now, I look at this picture and I see my muffin top over there, but I also see, if I wait a minute, I see the strength in my shoulders. And I love that. So even though I'm not a world-class athlete and I'm not that physically strong, I can't deadlift, I don't know, 100 pounds or whatever, there is still power in my body, and I love that. Another thing that I was able to see once I set the scale away and exercised regularly was I could say why not to different activities. These are a few of my friends, I'm on the far left there, and they said, hey, let's play hockey with our kids, pickup games. And I was on skates when I was younger, but I had never held a hockey stick before. But because I was in good enough shape, was I in great shape? Hell no. I was in good enough shape. I could say, oh, why not? And now, do I still suck at hockey? Yes, indeed I do. But I can get out there and I can skate and I can do some things. And my body allows me to say, why not? Instead of, oh, no, I couldn't, I shouldn't, I'm scared. I can just say I can go for it. And I can trust my body to do different things. This is a picture of my beautiful husband and snowshoeing, and this was just like a week and a half ago. And he said, hey, let's just go snowshoeing nearby. And this is, I don't know if you can see the angle of this terrain. It was steep. I've never hiked anything that steep before, so which tells you, I'm not a world-class hiker or climber. And I was able to do it. And my body carried me through. I survived. I'm fine. And this is what, and it's because I've been doing small, manageable exercise, and look, I can trust my body. I love feeling strong. This is my beautiful road bike. And it's fun to just see myself doing things, using my body and trusting it instead of, thinking that everything, I had to stay clean and I had to stay nice and I couldn't possibly try. And I'm also, when I'm willing to set the scale aside and just do things, I'm creating great memories. This is a picture of just the other week when I was out ice skating with my boys. And we had such a great time racing around the pond and throwing snowballs and things like that. And, again, short, manageable exercise has let me do that. So I'm going to ask you, what do you really want? Once we set aside this idea of, I want to lose 30 pounds, or I want to lose 10, or I want to lose 75 pounds. What do you really want when it comes to you and your body and activity? So I'm going to let you write for a couple of minutes so you can think about that. One of the things that I was surprised to find was that I could do far more things than I ever imagined. I found the love of cycling, which I had forgotten. If you have kids, you probably haven't even thought about what you wanted in a while, so this is a chance for you to be able to do that. And this is also a time to set aside any bad comments that you've gotten over the years from maybe a gym teacher or a parent or somebody who told you what you were good at and what you weren't. This is not about achievement or performance. This is about desire. Okay, we're going to move on, and anytime you want to come back to that question, it's a very powerful one. It's one I have to ask myself fairly frequently because it's so easy to fall into the trap of the number on the scale. So go easy on yourself and remind yourself to keep asking that question. What do I really want? What do I really want? And now the next question is, if you know what you really want, if you want to feel strong in your body, if you want to try a new sport, like this summer, looking ahead, I want to try paddleboarding, those sorts of things, the question is, how can you get there now? Now, paddleboarding, it's February in Montana. I'm not really going to be able to do that. But I can try something else different. Like I've been dying to rent a snow bike and get out and try that. That's something I can do. I can, if I want to feel strong in my body, I don't have to run a 5K or a 10K or lift 50 pounds. I can do a plank position for 15 seconds, 30 seconds, a minute, whatever. And that lets me feel right now the power in my body. Another thing that I'm able to do is hop on my bike. You can see there, even in the winter, yay verily, I get out and bike. And that, my website is Bike Bliss. I just love biking, and that's something I can hop on and do so quickly, and it makes me feel powerful immediately. And the reason I'm encouraging you to find something right now that reminds you that you are powerful, that reminds you that things are possible, is because results are external. They're out there yet, and that's I think, a big problem. And so we get hooked into thinking we can't be good until we've gotten some of those external results, which were not there yet. And so you need to find something that you can plug into immediately and remind yourself, yes, I am strong now. And so one of the ones that does it for me is plank position. You can also do this with your hands on the floor, pushing into your hands. I love it because it's simple. I don't have to run anywhere. I don't have to get sweaty. It's simple, and I feel my whole body engage. And so that's one tool that I use. But maybe that's not your thing, and that's totally cool. So what can you do? Is it going out for a walk and finding, seeing the clouds, seeing the sky, watching your dog frolic, whatever. So the question is, what can you do to get part way to that feeling or plug into that feeling right now? So why don't you go ahead and just take a couple minutes and just jot down the first ideas that come to your head. This is not about sketching some huge, magnificent exercise program. This is about quick shortcuts into your power. So, think about whether it's a walk, maybe it's playing catch with one of your kids, tossing a ball to the dog. And this is probably something you may have to experiment with and come back to, and that's fine. Anything is fair game. So we're going to move on. Feel free to come back to that question because that's another question that I have to keep reminding of myself. It's easy when if you're used to long workouts, like I go to the gym and I run on the treadmill for 45 minutes feeling like, well, if I can't do that, then I haven't been good or I haven't done it right. This is not about that. This is doing anything that reminds yourself, even sitting and doing some deep breathing exercises, everything's fair game. Now we're going to move into what do you know? What do you already know about your body? If you've been on the planet, assuming everybody who's on the call here and who's going to be listening to the recording later, you're all adults, you've spent some time in your magnificent, exquisite body, and you have some pretty good ideas about what you like and what you don't like. Now, a lot of times, especially as women, but it's true for everybody, that can get screwed up by messages about shoulds and musts and ought tos, and you should look like this, and it should feel like this. So I'm setting that to the side and saying, what kind of things do you know about this self? What kind of things have you put together and kind of figured out through trial and error that works for you? So the kind of things I'm talking about here are food. What kind of food works well for you? What kind of sleep do you need? Are you a morning person or an evening person? What kind of things really make you feel like you've gotten to play and you've gotten a break and you've gotten recharged? Do you have any health issues that are recurring, that are going on, that need attention? What kind of big emotional issues are in your life, whether it's loss or a tough childhood or some other big experience? And what other family issues do you have that contribute to your body of knowledge about yourself? Now, some of the things that I have figured out about me, and this is, it's taken a while for me to put the pieces together, is that carbs are not my friend. This is I love carbs, don't get me wrong. Believe me, this is a beautiful sight for me, is a whole stack of bread. But my problem is that it doesn't do well for me. I get brain fog. I get problems with inflammation. Once I start eating a loaf of bread, I just cannot stop. And so, hi, I'm Sherilyn, and I have a carb problem. But it took me a while to figure those things out. And I started getting the signals right after I graduated from college. And now, finally, 20 years later, I'm finally putting some of these pieces together. So, be patient with yourself. You don't have to have all the answers right now. And, there are some things I know about myself that I'd really rather not like to admit. Like, for instance, coffee, isn't this beautiful? I love this. This is coffee art that someone did, that someone sent me. Isn't that beautiful? But I can't have coffee right away in the morning. I'm really sensitive to caffeine. Tea, I'm fine with. But coffee, I get really jittery. I get anxious. I get snappish. I can have it in the afternoon, but I really, as much as I love it and I love the smell, can't have it in the morning, and that's a tough one for me. There are some things I know about myself that are kind of hard for me. One is that I'm on thyroid medication, or I had been in the past. I have myself off of it right now, but it's always going to be something that's in the background there. And that leads, for me, you know, I have thyroid issues like fatigue, and I'm noticing now that I'm holding on to weight. And so that's something that's always going to be in my orbit. I also have issues with depression. That's always going to be in my orbit, and I'm always going to have to deal with it. But that's something that I know, and if I know it, then I can work with it. On the upside, I know what works for me. Cycling, oh, I just love it. But it doesn't have to be your thing. Maybe you know you were raised dancing and you love dance and you know that, and, oh, that's what works for you. Or hiking works for you. Or water aerobics works for you. Awesome. Awesome, awesome. Whatever it is total fair game. And you really need to go with that. And sometimes it could be hard to hold on to that in the midst of other signals you're getting from other people. And so, you know, I know that biking works for me. I just started doing kettlebells, and oh my gosh, I love it. Is it for everyone? Absolutely not. But these are the things that are working for me right now. Weightlifting in general, like the kettlebell thing, was a hard thing for me to find because I knew I needed to start weightlifting because of all the other knowledge I knew about myself. But the idea of going in a gym and lifting barbells is just, it makes my skin crawl. Now, maybe it's totally the bomb for you. Fantastic. But I could not deal with, I didn't know how to resolve this issue of, oh, I should lift weights, but I hate that idea. And then I found kettlebells, and boom. So for me, that was part of finding what worked for me. So what do you know? What is part of in your whole constellation of issues and inputs and knowledge in your life? What kind of things do you know about yourself? Aside from hair color and eye color, what kind of things do you know that you love? What kind of things make your heart sing? Go ahead and write them down. What kind of desires have you felt like you've held back on, maybe? Like for me, I've always, you know, I want to try paddleboarding. I mentioned that. Another thing is that I've wanted to try one of those, you know, trapeze classes. You know, what kind of things do you know over the years that really is wonderful? Horseback riding, snowshoeing. And again, come back to this question because it can get easy for it to get lost in the shuffle of feeling like you should be doing something other than what you're doing right now. And here we are in making the switch. And the switch is finding a place where you don't need to define yourself by the scale, but you're defining yourself by the things that you love, the things that work for you, and feeling that power in your body rather than looking to the scale for the answer. I am continually astonished by how what I call pajama workouts, and that I mentioned them in the first webinar, and you can go back and listen to that recording to get more of an idea. But basically, pajama workouts are small, simple exercises you can do in your pajamas in a very short period of time. And I think they're so effective. I am constantly blown away by how well they work when I'm feeling, when I'm not feeling confident, when I'm feeling low, when I'm confused about what I should do. If I can step into some of these, I am amazed at how much it changes my standing posture and my posture toward the world. Like just the other week, I had a tough situation that would have sent me running and screaming for a pint of Ben & Jerry's or a glass of wine. And I was amazed to find out that, nope, what I wanted instead is I wanted to do some yoga. And this does happen. And it can happen in little tiny increments. You don't need to go to boot camp. You don't need to totally redo your life. This can happen. And what this woman is doing right here are lunges. These are nice and these are simple. They get your heart rate up a little bit. But, you know, you can do 10 of them, you can do 50 of them, you can do 5 of them, whatever you can do with these pajama workouts, exercises. is totally fine. This is another one that I love doing, when I'm not feeling great, and it's amazing how doing them just a little bit, your brain gets wired to think, oh, this is what I want, instead of the hiding under a pillow, doing a Downton Abbey marathon, whatever. You go to these instead. And here's another one again, low level, no big deal, easy, simple. And what's going to happen with this switch is once you do some of these small pajama workouts, your next step, I think, is not to knock you up and say, okay, now you're ready for 45 minutes, 5 times a day. Like I said, we're busy, and it's just not realistic for so many other people. And fortunately, there's a more effective way to be able to step into your own power than having to invest that much time. And some big athletes who have done marathons, who have done triathlons, are coming to this realization. They're doing some amazing research on intervals and finding that short, powerful workouts are getting better results than tons of investments in lots of hours of cardio and just running or biking hour after hour. And so what intervals are, if you've never seen them before, you can see this graphic here, is here's a woman who's walking for 3 minutes, then running for a minute. Walking for 3 minutes, running for a minute. And during a block of time, you just alternate between more intense exercise and lower key. And your intervals, what I love about these, is there are basically no rules aside from more exertion, less exertion. You can make your intervals 30 seconds long. You can do 30 seconds higher intensity and 2 minutes lower intensity. It doesn't matter. You don't have to do this for 30 minutes. You can do it for 5 minutes. The way I found out about this was through a program where a guy had you wearing a heart rate monitor, and you were clocking, oh, this is, I spent this much time in this interval and this much time in, up and this much time down. There's a heart rate monitor on the right here. And the other thing is an interval timer. And so they have these things, and that's great, but what I was finding is that I was spending too much time watching my heart rate monitor and my watch rather than enjoying the scenery around me, rather than enjoying who I was with. And so I eventually dumped it. Now, personally, I think an interval timer like the pink one on the left there might be good because you just clip that to yourself, you set your intervals, and then you don't have to watch. You just listen for the beeps. But you don't even need those gadgets. This is how simple this is. Once I kind of got the idea, then I was able to do things like, this is in the neighborhood not far from me, I was able to do what I call driveway intervals, which means when I'm in my neighborhood either walking or running, like I said, you can do intervals on anything. You can do them on a bike, you can do them walking, you can do them with pajama workouts, and I'll talk about that in a minute. But when I'm walking or running and I do driveway intervals, I am walking fast to one driveway and then slow down and I walk slower to the next driveway, or pick landmarks or something like that. And so it doesn't have to be specific times that you have dialed in perfectly. It could just be like faster to this driveway, slower to the next one, faster to this one, slower to the next one. And so you can work it in. Even if you can do 3 minutes of intervals, that's fantastic. And the whole reason intervals works is because you are upping your exertion, and that is creating positive stress on your heart. It's getting your heart and your body ready for something more demanding. But then you get a break. You get to rest. It's not push, 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 force, 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 go, go, go for, as hard as you can for as long as you can. I love it. It's like getting naps built in. It's not quite naps, but, you get a break. And I just love that. And so here's Mark Sisson has a fantastic blog on all sorts of things. Exercise and health conscious related, but he is a former marathoner, and he was a top level athlete. He was going to the Olympics, the whole deal, and you can read the quote here. Unfortunately, the popular wisdom of the past 40 years that we would all be better off doing 45 minutes to an hour a day of intense aerobic activity has created a generation of overtrained, underfit, immune compromised exerholics, and that's who he was. yes, he was a high-level athlete, but he was sick and his body was breaking down on him, and he started turning to intervals, and now he is fitter and stronger and getting better results than he was before. So it's not just hippy-dippy Sherilyn here saying, ooh, look, you get breaks, you get to rest, look at that. It's not some woo-woo thing. There is science behind this saying, yep, it works, and it works better than just pounding, pounding, pounding. So what I'm going to encourage you to do is set up some easy interval routes, or not even routes. I mean, I think outside because I love being outside, but it can even be intervals in your own house. And you can start, the reason I'm saying set it up is have these in your back pocket. Like I do have a 10-minute loop. Like I know if I have 10 free minutes, boom, I know that I can go out and I can walk around my neighborhood twice, and then that's been, I've done intervals and I've gotten in this little a workout of some kind, because something, you guys, is totally better than nothing. And they have found that even 10 minutes a day is way better than doing nothing. And so then also set up a 20-minute loop. If you have 20 minutes, you can go out and do something. And the same thing with a 30-minute loop, because as you do these pajama workout intervals, your body is going to be craving more. And if you set up these routes, say, oh, I know if I go to here from my house to this point, then I've gotten a workout in. Or if I know that if I drive 5 minutes away to this park and then I do this loop from there, then that's 20 minutes. And plan these out so that you have them in your head, so that you can look at the clock and go, ooh, I've got a free hour, I can do this. Or I just put some laundry in the washing machine. I know I have an hour. Let me go and take myself out and do a 20-minute or a 30-minute. But this doesn't start by telling you you have to do 30 minutes. You can be doing the pajama workout. You can set up a 3-minute interval with like those pajama workout, the little body work exercise elements that I told you about. Like you can do lunges for a minute. And then as your break, or you can, lunges for 30 seconds or 15 seconds. It's whatever your body can handle. And then for your break, do a plank for 30 seconds, a minute. Or you can just stand and rest. And then you do something, and then you do another little exercise. You could do mountain climbers, and then you can rest. And then, like what I do is I have a set of like 3 to 5 of those little exercises, and I link them together, and I do repetitions of them to build up to like 10 minutes or 15 minutes or 20 minutes, because that way I don't have to keep thinking, oh, what should I do next? No, I just repeat, okay? And I can kind of go on autopilot, and before I know it, my workout is done. The whole point of this is that this should be easy. This is me in my flip-flops and my back that I love. This should be simple. This should not be a part-time job. You should not have to go get special clothes. You should not have to overthink this and get 3 medical experts' opinions on if this is an appropriate program in general. Now, of course, follow your doctor's advice about what's safe for you. That's really important. But this should just be no big deal. You shouldn't have to psych yourself up and really force yourself to do any of this. This is easy. Ideas I have a kettlebell interval that I do, where I do some swings, and then I do some lifts, and then I do some different things. And like I said, there's like 3 of these little exercises that I'll do for like a minute, or I'll do 25 reps, or I'll do 10 reps, and then I switch to something else. And it mixes it up in my brain. It's not like then going out and doing the same thing for a whole half hour or whatever. And then in 15, 20 minutes, and I'm serious on this, you guys, I'm done. I'm done. And, my muscles are getting so strong, and I'm having a lot of fun, and I feel so strong and powerful afterwards. So these are my suggestions for you. There's a lot of, I said I was going to let you write, and I did a little bit, and I still did a little talking. So if there's any questions, I am more than happy to answer them. And if you're listening to this recording, you can still email me, or you can go on my blog, or you can go on my Facebook page, and you can ask me questions at any time. Shelby, are there any questions out there?
Yeah, there were a couple that came in. This one, you keep talking about how it's easy and it doesn't have to be a big deal, and I love that. And still this question came in about what tips do you have, things that have worked for you, about carving out the time? Like
the
if you're
beauty,
kind of maybe procrastinating and talking yourself out of having time or whatever, how have you been able to just carve that out?
Part of it is the word carve is kind of this interesting word, and I completely understand it, because before I kind of stumbled onto these like the pajama workout sort of idea, I was looking for that, like, oh, I need a block of 35 to 40 minutes, and especially if I was thinking about, well, exercise should happen in the gym, and I should have an hour, and I should, do some time on the treadmill, and I should lift, then, yeah, time was a big thing for me. But with this whole pajama workout idea, it's like, give me a break. I can't lay on my back and do a bridge for 20 reps. Or I mean, a hula hoop, like it's a really good core exercise, but I look at it and I'm like, how silly is that? As if I can't sit here and hula hoop for a minute. And that's what I love about the pajama workout stuff, is it's so quick and it's so fast that you don't have an excuse. And if it's really simple stuff where you're not like running around the house and you don't even have to put on a pair of shoes, there's no carving, there's no wishing, there's no, oh, I don't have 30 minutes all together at one time. I mean, seriously, if you can drop and do bridges or do a plank, then what's going to happen is after you're done doing that, you're like, oh, that was no big deal. Okay, I should be doing something else. What's something else I should do? And then what's something else I should do? And then before you know it, 15 minutes has gone by, and you've put something in. And you just feel like you're being pulled along because it's, oh, this was no big deal. Oh, this was no big deal. This was no drama. And so carving out the time magically, and it still amazes me, is like not a big issue anymore.
So it sounds like the best advice is just to start and try something, because then, like you were saying, that then the rewiring of your brain starts to happen. If you just start and do something, then you're asking, oh, what else can I do?
Exactly, and that's the whole momentum thing that we talked about in the first webinar.
Yeah.
I mean, it's crazy, because after years of being told that, like, no pain, no gain, there's this attitude that you have to suffer and it has to be somewhat uncomfortable and painful so you can feel virtuous. This is so crazy simple that you almost feel like you're getting away with something. Now, I'm also not promising you're going to lose 30 pounds in a week or 30 pounds in 30 days, but what you want is that connection to feeling like, oh, yeah, I could do this. Yeah, exercise is no big deal, and that's what happens with these micro exercises.
Here's another question, too, and this was something that you talked about on session 1. So for anybody that hasn't listened to session 1, definitely go and listen to that recording as well. But this question is about just if you have a family, and I know that you do, how do you connect with them so that they know that this is what you're up to?
So much of it is because you're taking this in little bites, like this. Even the intervals that they're setting up for professional athletes, and I am not kidding when I tell you this, is that there's something called the Tabata, and you can look it up. And with the professional athletes, they're looking at making these athletes, getting them to like their maximum toleration level, like to the point of like, oh, I'm going to puke. I'm so not recommending this for you. It's just getting your heart rate up a little and coming back down. That's how you can use intervals. But because these are in such small amounts and it's not a huge investment of time, it's not like, hey, you guys, we're going on this huge thing, and it's just not a big deal. It's easy for even if you have little kids, like, oh, let's put you in the stroller and we're going to go walk around the block twice. Or mommy's going to race you. Who's going to get to that driveway first? And then you can walk. It's really easy to integrate this stuff. Hills, oh my gosh, are just natural interval workouts. Like my husband used to, when he was a runner, he used to go to this one cemetery that had a hill in it, and he used to do intervals. So he'd run up the hill, and then he'd come down and run up the hill. And so it's easy to work this kind of stuff in with kids and with a family, because you're not making it this big, huge, special thing that needs to be done.
Great. And you've given us a lot of good examples on different types of intervals, both indoor and outdoor. Any other thoughts on that, like mixing it up?
That is actually the whole thing about intervals, is that just make sure you're mixing it up. You know, like with your intervals, if you're doing something with the legs, like mountain climbers, I don't know if you remember that from gym, but it's like you're in the push-up position, and then you're doing, you know, switching front legs back and forth and back and forth. So do something active, and then do something more passive. Or if you're doing something active with the legs, then do something with the arms. And so what's nice about that is, you know, as opposed to like getting on a Stairmaster or, you know, elliptical machine or a treadmill where you're just doing the same thing, you just feel like a rat in a wheel. With intervals, it's like there's always something different coming a few seconds later. And, you know, because I've given you permission that you don't have to knock yourself out, you're not pushing yourself to any physical threshold. So, you know, you can enjoy it. You can have fun. You know, oh, what could I do here? So I think it's a lot easier on the brain. You don't get as bored, and you don't feel like it's drudgery.
So mixing it up with a variety and using different parts of your body,
Mm-hmm.
so that you're not overworking one. Yeah, good. And then the last question that we have, and you talked a lot about this too, but it was the, so how long should this take? What should I be working up to? So it's back to the timing. That was the last question.
Yeah, and what's funny about this is not what should I or what should I be working up to. You're going to naturally just say, oh, I could do some more. I could do some more. And so literally when I started doing these, you know, intervals and these micro workouts or pajama workouts, I was depressed. I was, you know, I barely had any energy. I was like, oh, please give me a nap. I mean, if you would have said the word exercise, I would have busted out laughing. But doing these little ones, I probably did like maybe 3 minutes of an interval. Like I did, you know, a plank for a minute, and then I did lunges for a minute, and then I did, what's another one of my favorite ones? I have like 3 different kinds of lunges that I do, like a forward one and a backward one and stuff like that. Again, no big deal, or like the bridges. And so I did that for 3 minutes. And that was all I could handle at the time. It was like, oh, but I felt better. And then pretty soon I could do 2 reps of those 3. And then pretty soon I was looking at like, oh, I could go out for a bike ride for 15 minutes. And so what's going to happen is there's no specific, you must do this to be a good exercising person and healthy person. You're just naturally going to be like, oh, I could do this for another 3 minutes. So I could do this for another 5. And you know, it's kind of like if you have kids, you understand, you know, where you tell them, okay, we're going to go do this, and they're like, no, and they don't want to, and then once you get there, like you can't get them to leave. It's sort of that sort of same feeling of like, well, once you get going, you're like, gee, what was the big deal? This is fine. I'm great. Okay, awesome. And then you can just stop whenever you're ready, you know. And what you're going to find, another thing that they're finding with the intervals that is amazing, is that, you know, the wisdom used to be like if you're going to do a marathon, you got to train, you know, at those long distances. You got to put in hours and hours. Well, what they're finding, what I've found too, is I usually don't do workouts any more than 20 or 30 minutes at a time. But then when I am doing an activity where I'm called on to be out longer, like on a longer hike, like that snowshoe that I showed you, I can be out an hour and a half. And it's not like I'm not winded or I'm perfect, but it's fine and I'm not sore. Oh, a great example is like, so I haven't played hockey since we moved from Bozeman like a year and a half ago. But when we were up there a few weekends ago, the same gang of people that I showed you the picture of, they're like, oh, let's play hockey. And I was like, oh, yeah, let's play hockey. That should be great. Because I hadn't done it in a while, and I just thought, okay, I'm going to be on ibuprofen the next day. I totally was not sore. And all I had been doing was like 20 to 30-minute workouts. I hadn't played hockey at all, but I was fine. I was totally fine. And it's not like I sat on the sideline the whole time. So, yeah, you know, it just allows you to do more things without being in pain later and paying for it. It's astonishing.
And I think everybody can relate to all different kinds of situations where we've said, Yeah, I don't want to do that. And then you end up having a great time. So this is another good example.
But then worrying about, oh shit, I'm going to pay later. And then like that's what's amazing to me is I don't. It's not like playing hockey was simple and flawless and easy for me, but the next day I woke up and I'm like, oh, hey, right on. Okay, good enough. Yeah.
So tell us what's next. What's coming in session 3?
All right. What's next is kind of putting the bow on this whole package. We're going to be just coming home, exercise as a lifelong connection, because I don't want you to hop on a plan that you're going to just discard in a month, 6 months, even 2 years. This isn't a specific plan. What I want you to do is connect with this feeling of loving being strong in your body and feeling the power that's in your body, and being able to connect with that no matter what life brings. And we've all been through it, whether it's a move or a new job or an illness or a surgery or having a baby, or, life just has normal upheavals. And the problem with programs a lot of times is that if you get off the program, if you get off the routine, then it's so hard to get back on. And the awesome thing about the pajama workouts is you can fit them in and get back into them at any time. It's super easy. But we're going to take the information that we found, what you like, what kind of exercises you like, what works really well for you, those 10-minute, 20-minute, 30-minute routes that I asked you to do. And we're going to put them in what's called, it can be your exercise operating manual. I have one that encompasses all of my life that's called the Book of You, or, some stuff I should know about me. Because when you get in these positions in life where, things are kind of crazy and you're tired and you're overwhelmed, it can be easy to forget the things that you know about yourself. And so if you write some of these things down, like, gee, why am I crabby and snapping at my family? Oh, I haven't exercised in a while. Or, gee, oh, look, I ate that food that I know really always sets my stomach off. And it's a way for you to see patterns. It's a way for you to help yourself remember. Like when you're really sick and you're like, oh, I feel awful. What am I going to do? You can go to the Book of You and you can be like, oh, right, having onion soup is really comforting to me and it makes me feel better. But, when you're sick, you can't think of those things. But you can flip there and find it, and we'll be doing that with exercise, and you can expand that for your whole life, but we'll be doing that. And then the other thing I want to show you is we all like progress and we all like results, but I'm going to be showing you some charts that kind of talk about how we typically think about how progress should look like and what it really looks like. And it's going to make you feel a whole lot better about your ups and downs and changes and just the normal non-linear way that progress tends to happen with real people. And so that's in 2 weeks. And then extras, if you excuse me, if you signed up for this call, you can get in an exclusive private Facebook group where we can hit around some of these ideas and you can ask questions and so on. And then when I write the ebook about this, you'll get that. And if you want a handwritten note, all you need to do ever is just email me your address or, an address that you feel safe giving me, and I will send you one. This is not a ploy to collect information. This is just something that I love doing.
Awesome, Sherilyn. Looking forward to that next session. So as we close, Sherilyn, if I could have you bring up that last slide and let everyone know how to reach you in the future. And again, you can follow Sherilyn on her bikebliss.com website, and there's her Facebook page as well. And Sherilyn, if someone wants to email you, it would be
bikeblisschick@gmail.com. So that's all lowercase, all one word, bikeblisschick as in baby chick, as in, slang for female, @gmail.com.
Okay, great. Well, Sherilyn and I would like to thank all of you that are riding along live and those of you who will be listening to the recording in the future. And Sherilyn, thank you so much for these insights. It's been fun.
Thanks so much for having me, Shelby.